Welcome to OkState Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Fans, today we have a very, very, very special guest, Brad Gore, a Hall of Famer for Oklahoma State baseball, joins OkState Daily. He also just kicked Texas's butt back there in like 1991 or 1990, somewhere in those. We're old, Coach, so those years all run together. But hey, Brad Gore, how the hell are you, man?
I'm great. Yeah, that was 91, man. I don't forget those dates very well. So that is a date I remember. It was a great day, and I appreciate you having me on, Casey.
You probably don't remember, but back in our Legion days, we took a trip out to Tologa, and Coach Holt, Tony Holt, who was the coach at Stillwater High School forever, he got tossed. Our assistant coach, Todd Smalley, got tossed. My dad ended up having to coach third, and we got our asses kicked by you guys that night. That was a hell of a fun night.
Hey, you know what? When you come to Tologa, Oklahoma, you better be ready for anything, man. Yeah, those were great days. You know, I loved playing Legion ball. I wish we still had it. I think it was great for kids. I think it was great for baseball. So, yeah, I remember all that, man. We were just a little old 320 population town, but we had some pretty good baseball.
You did. First of all, but obviously your brother. I don't want to say you grew up in his shadows, but he was a really big deal when you were growing up. Matter of fact, he played professional baseball for many different years. So what was it like getting to grow up with Brian, who went to Oklahoma State as well?
Well, you know what? If there was a person that I probably look up to still today, it'd be my brother. He taught me a whole bunch about the game. Even though I was 5 years younger, we hit through. He taught me how to compete. He taught me how to be a baseball player, really. And I tried to emulate everything that he did. And I will say this, Casey, he's a heck of a lot better athlete than I ever was or will be. He was all-state basketball and baseball. He can just do anything he puts his mind to pretty much. And I think he probably taught me that. Him and my dad, my dad's a farmer, rancher, and we worked. I tell my kids all the time that they don't really know what work is, and that I owe a lot of what I am and who I am to those two guys for all they taught me. I didn't always like working on that farm, but man, there's just things you had to do, and you got them done and you figured out how to do it. So, to answer your question, it was a lot of fun, to be honest with you. He was hard on me at times and made me, get better. 5 years is quite a bit difference for guys. I'm in the 8th grade, he's a senior, but I was always there, and he always let me be there to work with him. So really appreciative of that.
Of course, Tologa produced you and Brian, and then also Jordy Mercer a couple of years later, actually several years later. But now, like 15 years ago, they discontinued all their sports programs. That had to be a sad day for you.
Very, very sad. You can still drive by the field, see a lot of the stuff that, was still there when we were playing, and it's tough to watch, but that's the evolution of Western Oklahoma and these small towns. The farming industry not being able to have the small farms as much. It hurts our population and hurts the sports programs and the schools in general. So hate to see it, but not much we can do about it.
So you got into the coaching industry, you started at Chick, and then you went to Dover, built a power over there, went and umpired there the other day. They're good again this year. Good to see them back again. They didn't have a very good year the year before, but they're good again this year. That's good to see. You won a couple of state titles there, had them rolling, then moved over to Enid, and you've got Enid rolling now. You produced Garrett Scholl, who is just a fantastic freshman, this year's team, and Jake Kennedy, who's a good right-handed pitcher too. So talk about your coaching career, Coach.
Well, actually, Casey, I started out in Dover. You got that flip-flop, but no problem. But, yeah, I started out there, was 10 years there. Was fortunate enough to have some really good players. Won a couple state championships, lost about 4. We played fall and spring, and was grateful for my time there. I jumped into that, no assistant. I coached baseball pretty much all day, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, high school. And did it by myself. Didn't know anything about how to manicure a field or take care of a field. People overlook that a lot of times, but I learned on the fly. As you know, it's not an easy job, but loved every minute of it. Thankful for my time there. Then was 11 years at Chickasha. Played for the state championships 7, 8, and 9, and lost them all. A couple to Carl Albert, one to Bixby. But just played with coached some actually wonderful guys. Had a great AD there named Johans Brown, who had my back all the time. I love Johans. I'm sure you probably know him. Then moved on to Enid, and this is my 10th year there. So I guess that means I'm getting old, but I'll tell you this, Enid feels like home. I love it here. I love the ballpark, love the people here. You know, they're just northwest Oklahoma folks, and it's kind of where, you know, I belong. So real thankful for that. And we've had some really good players and some guys that have really bought into our program, and we're just real fortunate. I got great leadership here. Everybody backs our program, and it's just been a good fit for me.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You've gotten that thing turned back around. Enid had fallen on some hard times, and you got that going, so that's a lot of fun to see, because Enid's one of those towns kind of like Stillwater. There's certain places in Oklahoma where baseball is just in their pedigree. Enid has to be good at baseball.
I would agree with that. You know, when I just kind of came here sight unseen. I hadn't seen them play. I didn't know what kind of, talent they had or anything like that, but I knew they had history of good baseball, and I knew this was a baseball town. You know, for a high school game, if we have a good competitor come in on a Friday night, we could have 1,000 people, 750 people at a ball game. You know, so it's a lot of excitement around it, and a lot of people want to be good at it. And our kids are kind of spoiled with this park here. A lot of times they go off to other colleges and they don't get to play in as nice a park as they play in every day here. Yeah. So we try to make them recognize how lucky and blessed they are to be able to play here.
Well, and then also the college there, NOC Enid, is they've just absolutely taken off. That's a tremendous JUCO for your kids to get to watch too.
Yeah, you know what? And we say this every day. Not everybody has, and they're there if we're playing and they're not. Their coaches are at our games. Mm-hmm. So our kids have the luxury of every time they go out, they know that somebody's going to be watching. And, a lot of people say that and kind of know to get their kids motivated, but whatnot. But we mean it. Like, they're there. So very fortunate. Coach Bay's doing a really good job. Get along well with Coach Bay. We have a good working relationship. And, I hope they go and win a national championship this year.
Apparently, you guys are lifting some pretty good weights there, Dina, because Garrett Scholl, that dude's like, he's yoked, man. I mean, you guys must be doing the job in the weight room.
You know what? That guy was born that way.
Okay.
I'm not going to take any credit for that. But, no, you know what? Garrett was one of those kids that he took care of his body from an early age. Mom and dad, great people. Yeah. Great parents, so he was fortunate that they pointed him in the right direction and did the things he needed to do to become, he looks like Mr. Incredible out there, but or actually better than that. But yeah, man, he's so powerful. I tell everybody this, that I'll probably never, I hope I do, but probably never coach someone quite like Garrett, that he did so many crazy things, that hit balls where nobody's hit them, and he did things that nobody's done that I've coached before. So very thankful and blessed to be able to coach him.
Absolutely. Jay Kennedy, talk about him a little bit. He grew up in Hennessy, came and played for you there at Enid. Wonderful young right-handed pitcher.
Jake is another guy that, both those guys are really good people first. Jake also from the cream of the crop of parents. And I think that always goes back to it, how you were raised. Jake came over here and learned how to compete, and threw a no-hitter in the state tournament in the quarterfinals against Westmore, one of the hottest teams in the state at that time. And we rode his back all the way to the state championship game in 23. And, Jake's just a competitor, and Jake will get after it. And I'm glad he's, his dream, these kids dream to play for Oklahoma State. And, I was the same way, I could go and tell a story about all that, but Jake wanted to play at Oklahoma State, got his opportunity, and hopefully he's going to be able to make the best of it. Just a great, great kid.
We're going to get into some of your career in terms of some of the games that you pitched at OSU, because it was absolutely awesome. Awesome enough to where in 2023 you were inducted into the Oklahoma State Baseball Hall of Fame. You're talking about one of the most illustrious units to be a part of as far as being in the Baseball Hall of Fame at Oklahoma State. That's pretty incredible, Coach. That had to be an honor.
Yeah, you know what? It was a big surprise, to be honest with you. You never think that's going to happen. You don't really, after you're kind of done, you're thankful for the opportunity to play there and all the great memories I had, and growing up being a Cowboy fan, and it was just something that I had always dreamed of. But to actually hear that you were going to be inducted, and I was fortunate enough, Josh has been in my life since he was 14, really. I mean, he was 14 years old when I came on campus. Him and Matt were young kids, and Coach Ward I was fortunate enough to get Coach Ward to come back to the induction, and Coach Schwanke, two guys that mean a whole lot to me. And I know TH might have had COVID then and wasn't able to come, but that's when you talk about Cowboy baseball, those guys meant a lot to me and did a lot for me as a person and a player. So I'm very, very thankful and fortunate to be in that thing, the Hall of Fame. It's hard to walk into Obrate and go over there and look at those plaques, and you're actually there with those great players. But I'm very, very thankful.
So what was it about G-Dub, the edge that he had? What was it that just made him such a special coach?
You know what I tell everybody is he's probably the smartest man I know. And I'm not just talking baseball. I'm talking about life. I'm talking about physics, chemistry. I mean, whatever you want to talk about with Coach Ward. He just understands. And, as a coach, he knew how to handle people, I think, was number one. Sometimes he was tough. Sometimes he was understanding. But he had his way of doing things, and you were either kind of in or you were out. And I have a lot of respect for Coach Ward. And man, I'm thankful for all that he allowed me to do as a player.
Okay, man, let's get into some of the time you're at Oklahoma State, and to the day I die, this will piss me off. That 1990 season where you guys just ran right through that bracket. And because TV wanted to make it a winner takes all, it was just a one game on a Saturday. You guys faced a lefty in Stan Payne for Georgia. And I believe like Brian Costco or somebody like that got a triple. Looked like we're going to tie the game. End up losing that game. And that was so frustrating because Coach Ward had been there so many times and still never won one. Can you take us back to those memories?
Yeah, you know what? Looking back at it, we thought when we went into that game we were the hottest team in the nation. But, that other side, Georgia had already lost the game. That's what kind of stinks about it. We were both one-loss teams at that point. And I just really feel like if we would have saddled up the next day and played, we'd probably run through them pretty easily because I think they ran their two dudes out there, and we had our whole staff ready to go. And, it just kind of stinks that that was going on. But, I would like our chances on day two if we'd have had that opportunity.
Yeah. So take us through the performance in 1991 where you shoved against Texas. I remember that like it was absolute yesterday.
You know what? I had not pitched very well in the conference tournament, so I got bumped down a little bit in the regional, and it worked out that I actually got to pitch against Texas, who I wanted to pitch against. And, I had a little chip on my shoulder. I didn't like the fact that I hadn't pitched in game one or two, and here we are in game three. So it was time for me to go out and perform. And, we had a big crowd. Brooks Kieschnick was a freshman, I believe, that year. And, I ended up giving the one run and going the distance. But it was a great one. I wish we could have won the regional, more importantly. But, I was just one piece in that whole thing. And I was just fortunate to have a good game and pitch well against those guys. But I do remember it well. I loved seeing a lot of Texas fans walk out of there with their tails between their legs.
Another moment that was just absolutely awesome. In fact, I think Trevor Boone might be the number one moment for me whenever he knocked out the H in the Chickasaw at the Bricktown Ballpark against Nebraska. That was awesome. But it's 1 and 1A with the Sean Hugo home run. I still say that's the hardest ball hit. That's the fastest ball ever to leave a yard off of Brooks Kieschnick. That was an incredible moment, wasn't it?
That will probably be in my top five of baseball moments for sure. Just how it all went down, how he had kind of stuck it on us in game one, and I don't know. I was watching some replays of that the other day, and I think he threw 178
Yeah,
pitches game one or
he
something like
did.
that.
He did.
And then he comes back in relief. So, there was some heated words in that game, and in game one also, and there's some craziness that happened in that game. I don't know if you know, but yeah, there was some stuff that went on that behind the scenes
Oh yeah,
that people were getting after it.
yeah,
So real competitive folks. We had an edge. Our team that year really had an edge, and we were trying to prove what we were. And it was good to beat those guys, and we made it to the Final Four. And then I think the Shockers got us the next day,
yeah,
which really stinks.
yeah.
But what a great game, and Sean was a great player, great hitter. So
He was.
no surprise on that.
Rumor has it, the Westmore facility, the practice football field / soccer field is immediately behind the right field fence. And him being a left-handed hitter, rumor has it, when he would take batting practice, they'd have to stop soccer practice because he would pelt all the soccer players on the soccer field. That's how far he hit the ball.
I would not doubt it. I would not doubt any of that. And Sean's a great person. He's
Yeah.
he's a really good person, and so yeah, that none of that surprises me. That's the thing about Oklahoma State baseball. When you put on that uniform, man, you're just different. And
Yeah.
those guys like Sean Hugo and Jeremy Burnett's, Mitch Simons. I mean, you just go on and on. But played with some great players, dudes that could hit it out any park at any time.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of them, Mitch Simons and Sean Hugo, Jeremy Burmist, Dennis. Let me go through some names. I'm going to turn to my left, so I want to get at least the ones that I looked up. Dennis Burbank, Michael Daniel, who was awesome. Brad Beanblossom, one of the best players ever at OSU. Steve Daly, I remember he brought a bat up to one of our Legion games. It was that the new TPX, Louisville Slugger TPX, and it was black and orange, and it was just absolutely awesome. Greg Wahlberger, still in the Edmond area. His son was really good, came through about 7 or 8 years ago, does a lot of hitting instruction. Jerry Burnett speaks for himself. Manny Cervantes, one of the best hitters at OSU. Billy Canwisher, a great pitcher. Gordy Tipton from the submarine side. Kelly Revis, who I grew up with in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Lou Luca, who still I think has, if there was exit velo back then and they could register it, Lou Luca would have registered the hardest exit velos of all time. He hit one at Arkansas one night. I still can't remember. I still can't believe how hard he hit that. Freddie Ocasio, Paul Metter, who I got to talk to his son, Jacob, who went to TCU. Jacob's in the Dodgers system now. Ernesto Rivera, who is awesome. Jason Heath. Jabon Childers from Sand Springs, coached at Cleveland forever. He could absolutely hit bombs from the left side. Peter Prodanov, who is an incredible right-handed hitter. Hugo, you mentioned Scott Watkins. Rob Geico, one of my best friends in the world. We grew up together in Stillwater. Sal Bando Jr., Thad Chadrick, who was just simply a left-handed awesome hitter. Jake Benz, who was maybe the most versatile pitcher and position player ever. And Jason Bell, who was a stud on the bump. So when you hear those names, what goes through your mind, Coach?
Oh, those were glory days. I mean, man, 90, 93, we go to the World Series. We're one game away from the World Series in 91 and 92. We lose, the if game in Texas to not Fullerton, the Dirtbags out in California.
Yeah.
But anyway, they beat us to go in 90, 91 and 92. We lose at Wichita State. And, there was a game at Wichita State in 92 where we were down to Minnesota. I don't know if you remember that. In game one, we were down 7 runs in the bottom of the 9th and scored 8. And we bring Billy, oh man, I'm going to forget his last name. Billy had like 3 at-bats all year, comes off the bench and hits a grand slam to walk it off. And what I remember most about that is Coach Ward's reaction. When he came around third, it was just like ho-hum. And he walked to the dugout. And he said, that's what we're supposed to do. And, that's the kind of players we had in those times, especially in 90. That team, Mike Daniel, probably one of the most fierce competitors that I ever played with, could hit the ball a long ways, anytime, any place. And, there's a lot of stories about Mike. I'll never forget Mike Daniel was catching me, and I was pitching against Kansas, and He gives me a signal on the first pitch. I probably shouldn't tell this story, but I'm going to. But anyway, he gives me a signal on the first pitch. I shake him off. He puts down what I wanted. I throw it. The kid hits a home run, first pitch of the game from Kansas. And Mike gets the ball, and I'm a freshman. It might have been my first Big 8 start. No, it was my second. Anyway, he walks out to the mound, and he goes, "Hey, Mr. Freshman, don't ever shake me off again." He said, I told him what was coming. And what was crazy is I gave up Bull Durham, yeah. Well, he walks out there, and that was the only run I gave up the whole game. And so, but those are the kind of things that I go sideways, Casey.
You did. You're good, Coach. You're good. Baseball's all about adjustments, right? All right, here we go.
Yeah. So, I was fortunate to play with Mike. I still visit with Mike. I see Mike and Dennis Burbank, and you named off several people there, Rob Linfonte.
Yeah.
I see all those guys. And, one thing that people, I don't know if they know or not, but at the ballpark, Trent Marr, if you know Trent, Trent was our equipment manager back in the early 90s there. And he rounded up the alumni alley out there in left center for the corrals. And, man, I can't tell you how many players actually come back around. What a thing Trent does. Trent needs to be in the Hall of Fame for that. I mean, it's just such a good time. Every time you go out there, you see somebody you haven't seen for 15, 20 years. And so thankful for that. And I'm going to give a shout out to Trent for that. Thanks, Trent. I know he's probably going to be listening at some point. He's a huge OSU fan, all sports. So, but to answer your question, Casey, all those players you named, just great players, man. I mean, there's so many things I could talk about each one of them, but all just great players.
Never forget that 1990 finals game was delayed like 5 minutes, and like the TV broadcasters were like, "We have no idea what's going on. We don't know why the game's going to be delayed." And they come back, they go, "Well, we found out the catcher, Michael Daniels, had to go to the bathroom."
I forgot about that until you said that, but that's a true story. That's a true story. I mean, crazy things happen. I mean, whatever you got to do, man.
Absolutely. Hey, so one thing, you were great in every scenario, but the one thing you mentioned it just a minute ago, as far as it being third on the list or whatever, you were known for really coming through in the biggest moments. You loved the biggest situations. What was it about your personality that made you that way?
Well, I'd probably go back to what I talked about a little earlier with my dad and my brother, that hard work thing, that we literally, man, I mean, I tell my kids, as I said this earlier, like we played baseball and we worked. Yes. And when we played, and when we worked. And, there were a lot of times I trained with my brother. Now, back then, training was a lot different than it is now. We ran miles, and there's a bridge outside of Tologa that's South Canadian River. And me and my brother started out running to and back, which was 2 miles. Then it was 4 miles. Then it was 6 miles. And then it was 8 miles. I mean, it's hard to believe now the way I look, but I used to could do it. And the whole time we would run, he would talk to me about situations like, when I'd get tired, like, "Hey, man, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, man, on third, you got a 1-run lead. You going to quit now?" And, and I'll tell you a little story about him was in 1990, I'm going out to pitch against LSU in the World Series. And that night we broke the record for attendance. And he called me before the game and said, "Hey, when you go out there, first thing you do is get the ball from the infielders when they throw it around. You they wipe that rubber off, and you just step back and you look at every one of those people and you say, 'Here it is,' and you go to work." And if you watch the video, you can see it, the very end of it. But, I think just the training of not being scared of situations and not being scared to fail and having to bow your back a little bit when you really didn't want to, I think that's probably where that came from.
So you'll have a great perspective on this because you've been a player. You've been somebody who's been in the situation of being recruited. You've also been on very high-level teams. And then also you've been in the coaching industry, and you've seen the recruiting cycle now and what kids nowadays actually want out of their college experience. So Talk about Josh Holiday, the job he's done at Oklahoma State. I think it's very underrated in terms of what he actually, the situation at OSU and what he has to deal with. I think he's in most ways, he's probably overachieved in terms of what he's been given. So talk about the job you think he's done at OSU and the state of the program.
I think Josh doing a really good job. I think the factors that are in play now versus whenever I played, and even in 10 years ago or 7 years ago, this NIL thing has changed stuff so much that, it's crazy. I really don't like the state of college baseball or college athletics. It's more like pro sports. And, I think Josh done a great job. I mean, I don't know what the conference championships he's won, but every year we're in the hunt. And has he won 3 or 2? I don't know, but he's done a great job. And I think, we just have to realize where we're at. And, this year we've started a little bit slow, but they're notorious for picking it up about midway and having a great season. And for people to, when you go into a regional and it doesn't matter who you play anymore, there's so much parity. Yeah. I was watching last night, my oldest boy Connor played at Austin Peay, and we were watching Austin Peay last night play Lipscomb. And every guy that stepped up there has a beard and a mustache, and they're all huge. I mean, they're just grown men, 23, 24-year-old men. So very, very tough job for coaches in Division I baseball. And, I'm proud of Josh. I think he's doing a good job, and I hope people will just leave him alone and let him coach, because he'll figure a way out to make this thing happen. And, I'm proud of our program.
You mentioned Connor there, and you mentioned Austin Peay. Roland Fanning, a off of the tree from Josh Holiday. Him and John Littell, Stillwater boy, out there just killing it there with Austin Peay. They're getting a lot of the, like Kyler Proctor transferred over there from Oklahoma State and kind of in this area. So they're doing a great job out there at Austin Peay, aren't they?
Oh, 100%. Roland has a little different take on things as a coach, but he's a player's coach all the way. And, he likes Mountain Dew, which is a good thing. So, Roland, I go quite a ways back with Roland, and got a lot of respect for him and John. And I know Connor had a good experience out there, and I hope they can pull this thing off and make a regional this year. I think they're 13-6 or something like that. But yeah, he does a great job, and he's got a unique style. So go P.
I just wish I had a tenth of his energy. I mean, that guy's like the Energizer Bunny, isn't he? Oh my gosh.
Oh, no doubt. How about those shoes too? I mean, if you've got enough, whatever you want to say, to wear lime green shoes, you're the man. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, he's definitely got shoe game, and that's a big deal in today's day and age, Coach. That might be a tiebreaker with some of these recruits.
100%. You know what? I'm watching last night. I even see some of their dudes wearing lime green sleeves, and I'm like, only row, So very unique style, fits Roland to a T. So again, I hope nothing but the best for him.
All right, man, this has been great. Hey, let's button this up. I know there's a lot of people to thank out there for a Hall of Fame career like yours. So talk about everybody you want to thank and just kind of sum this up as far as all of your experiences.
Well, as far as baseball, I'd go back. I've kind of already talked about it, that, my dad and my brother had a huge influence on me as far as my work habits and my intellect. My dad was a high school coach for a lot of years, won a couple state championships, won at Binger in 1976 and won at Tologa in 1996 and maybe 97. Coached some really good players, coached the player of the year for the whole state of Oklahoma in 1976, Robert Johnson. Mm-hmm. They beat Asher in the state championship 1-0. He throws a complete game and hits a solo home run to win the state championship. So, I've been fortunate my whole life to be around good people and good baseball folks. And so those two guys. Then I can't forget my mom. My mom, with a lot of times my dad being a farmer, rancher, coach, he'd be busy playing farm and ranch, and my mom throw me BP. So, I'm thankful for her. Just my whole family, now my wife, now she didn't have anything to do with my career, but I'm blessed to have, three great kids, two great granddaughters, and, life is good for me. So, thankful for all the people that have been there for me, throughout my career, but mainly my family. I mean, I have a huge extended family, and they're all sports people, I've been blessed, Casey.
Brad, it's great to see you again, Coach Gore, I should say. It's just you've had a wonderful coaching career. Your playing career speaks for itself, so it's such a wonderful honor to get you here in on O-State Daily. Hope this isn't the last time we get you in on the show, Coach.
Hey, I appreciate it. And Casey, keep it up, man. I read all your stuff every day, so I know us Cowboy fans appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, Coach.
See you.